So hey everyone, welcome to this new episode, and in this episode I'll be sharing two new podcasts. So number one is a podcast named as Founders, and the name of the podcast episode is Napoleon Speaking Directly to You. So the host of this podcast is David Sierra, and he brings out different biographies every week in form of a podcast. And I love reading biographies, and in this case listening to biographies. And also Sir Isaac Newton used to say, if I've seen further than everyone, then it is by standing on the shoulder of giants. And this is one of my favorite quotes by him, which basically means that innovative ideas come from somewhere, no matter how original or unique they might look. But the creator of the idea might have stood on someone else's shoulders to find that idea, which in this case are the people who biographies talk about and the people who have figured it out all. And standing on shoulder of the giants basically means that we get to master on top of the learnings from these amazing people from the history. So this podcast talks about who Napoleon was and what was his role in the history, his thinking process, and the host also gives away a lot of quotes from Napoleon. And few of my favorite ones were, the clever man takes advantage of everything, and the less clever man sometimes misses everything by neglecting one thing. And another one was that a revolution can never be stopped. It can just be given a direction, or it can just be throttled. And just listening to this podcast and learning more about Napoleon will just make you feel like you need to push your limits a lot more than you're pushing right now. Also, the host talks about Napoleon's art of war and how we can implement them and use them in real life. And if you run a business, the host gives a really nice idea how you can use these art of war principles in your business as well. So before I tell you what is podcast number 2, let's go and get a coffee. It was so hot in the park. I'm just sweating all around. The second one is not exactly a podcast episode, but it is a podcast called Naval. And this podcast is run by Naval Ravikant. And if you don't know about Naval Ravikant, you really need to learn about him. And I first saw Naval Ravikant on Joe Rogan's podcast, and post that I've been a big fan of him. And that is one of my favorite Joe Rogan episodes, which I've also shared in a list of my favorite Joe Rogan episodes. So Naval's podcast has really tiny episodes of 2-3 minutes, which are from a bigger podcast. And he cuts down the most important parts and posts them in 2-3 minutes of clips. And you might have to listen each of these episodes twice or thrice to just make sense what Naval is talking about in these episodes. And a really good starting point to start listening to Naval Ravikant is to go and listen to his podcast, which is about 3 hours long on Spotify, and it is tagged as How to Get Rich. And it is one of the most helpful podcasts or a piece of audio file that I've listened. It is a collection of podcasts of all the small tiny things that he have posted around this area, and it is all inside one chunk of episode, which is 3 hours long. So in How to Get Rich podcast, Naval talks about everything that's happening right now and what is going to unfold in future in terms of work, in terms of money, in terms of creativity, and in terms of jobs. And what things you should focus on, what things will make you rich, and what things might get out of use or out of scope in the future. And the goal of this podcast is to make the best use of future and just be happy and wealthy in life. So thanks a lot for watching this episode, and if you found this video helpful, then do subscribe to my channel. Bye bye.